Well, first, let me say it was a relief actually, because retirement means freedom. So you're no longer bound by, the shackles of being in government, and you become a free person. So there's a great feeling of liberation and freedom, which is nice. And secondly, I had decided that, I will not do any job after I retire, but I could do, small projects or mentor some people or be on some committees and boards. So I joined the board of an Indian public sector company called BHEL. They make turbines and electrical machinery, and in fact, they've been active in Nepal also, supplying equipment to some of the hydro projects. And then I was also appointed by the Commonwealth Secretary General to. There was a high-level group on Commonwealth governance. So I was a member of that. We produced a report on what reforms are required. And I'm also on the board of, there is an organization called the United Nations Institute for Training and Research, and they have a peace advisory board. So in my previous avatar, I was associated with peacekeeping operations in the UN, and so I'm on this board, which meets in Geneva once a year. And of course, during COVID, everything shut down, so I used that opportunity to write a book on Nepal. It's called Kathmandu Dilemma. Resetting India-Nepal ties. So that took up some of my time. And I enjoy traveling. So, I'm quite busy and happy and free. Well, of course, Nepal has changed a lot. I mean, I can't even remember. I think I was a student and I had come with some friends and we stayed at a very small hotel near the Yak and Yeti on Darbar Marg. And it was a very enjoyable experience. Kathmandu in particular has excellent climate. And in those days, if you remember, imported goods you could not buy in India because, ours was a closed economy. So to buy Levi's jeans, people used to come to Nepal to all the border huts. So it was really a wonderful time. And my memories of Nepal were also influenced by, there was a very famous film called Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Devanand, which was set in Nepal. And I think that really was quite an iconic film. And a lot of young people enjoyed that film very much. So those are some of my memories. But, it's also the mountains, which are so attractive. In fact, just as I sit here, I can see a partial view of the Ganesh Himal. So it's very, very beautiful. So I have wonderful memories of Nepal. When I came back as ambassador, of course, things have changed. And particularly on the political side, this country has seen so much turmoil, so many political changes. And what is really remarkable is, I think, that Nepal has emerged stronger, through this process. Change is always disruptive. And so, it's not an easy process to go through. So in retrospect, when I look at Nepal, from the period of the Rana autocracy to a Republican multi-party democracy, huge changes have taken place, and that is, I think, truly impressive. Well, one of the most difficult moments, I think, was during the earthquake. So I was here, it was a Saturday in April in 2015, and we had this horrendous earthquake. In fact, my mother was on a wheelchair. Sadly, she passed away, and she had to be on, oxygen. So on Saturdays, I used to take her out for coffee. So we used to go either to the Hyatt or Yak and Yeti, and that was an outing she looked forward to. And I think we'd got ready, and we were planning to go when this earthquake happened. And it was a horrible experience, and it went on for a long time, 56, 58 seconds. At that time seemed like eternity. And of course, after that, I think, we were completely preoccupied with, providing relief and assistance, not just to the Indian community, but also to the Nepalese government and Nepalese authorities. So I think that was certainly one of the most memorable times. It's not a happy memory, but certainly one of the most difficult and one of the most challenging times that I saw in Nepal. Very different. First, let me say that a neighboring country in the priority listing of the government is way, way up. And especially a country like Nepal, for India, I would say, has the highest priority in our foreign policy. So I don't think you can really compare Nepal with any other country. You could at most compare Nepal with some of our other neighbors, but not with a European country or a country in Southeast Asia. So Hungary is a beautiful country, and they have this nostalgia, they have this somewhere deeply embedded in their psyche is the fact that they have come from somewhere in the East. So they're very fond of India, Indian culture, Indian languages. So Hungary was a fantastic experience, and the focus there was really more on cultural diplomacy, which I did, and very enjoyable. Vietnam is a country on the move, extremely dynamic country, totally focused on its economic development, and India-Vietnam relations are on the upswing. So Vietnam was a very interesting experience, and the whole effort was to step up our security and defense cooperation, to develop our economic ties. So it was very interesting and challenging in a different way. Nepal, of course, is a vast spectrum of relationships, a huge number of actors that determine the relationship, both governmental and non-governmental. You're dealing not only with the central governments, you're also dealing with the state governments. Nepal was going through, huge political processes, the end of the Maoist insurgency, the drafting of a constitution, the problems in that process. So it is a very, very challenging posting. And I personally feel for an Indian diplomat, no other posting is as challenging as Nepal is, or as productive, or as enriching and rewarding. I think this is also one country where you can contribute a lot. So very, very exciting, and I think Nepal really has been my best posting in that sense. So I've been to many, many provinces, from the high Himal to the hills to the Tarai, and each place is unique, and I've had a lot of experiences, But I think one memorable experience, of course, is to the Bala Tripura Sundari temple in Dolpa. And Dolpa is not accessible. You have to fly there or you have to walk, because at that time, at least, there were no road connectivity between Jajarkot and Dolpa. I think the road had come up to Jajarkot. So I went to Dolpa. We had renovated this beautiful temple. It's on a high hillside. And what was amazing is, the number of people who came for this event, all villagers, elderly people, and they were all so happy. So that was certainly one, and what a beautiful setting. So in a very remote part of Nepal. So that was one fantastic experience. The other one was a visit to Upper Mustang. And, you can really see how Tibetan culture is preserved over there. And it was really a wonderful experience. And in the Tarai, I've been to many parts of the Tarai. And I think the warmth of the people, is something fantastic. I remember going to, Jaleshwar it was for some project. A number of people who turned up to meet you, to, fold their hands in namaste, to touch you. Very touching experience. It's wonderful. I've tried Nepali cuisine and I love, and especially the Newar cuisine is very different and very interesting. As a vegetarian, absolutely no problem. You have dal bhat and saag, everywhere. So I've never faced any problems in Nepal. In Vietnam, I used to have a problem. It's not so easy to find vegetarian. The concept of vegetarianism didn't exist. But in Nepal, absolutely no problem. And I've also been to Newari families for Mahapuja celebrations. And of course, I've been trekking a little bit, both before I became ambassador and after. So I'm very familiar with all the hill villages, and I think food was never, ever a problem. Nepal is blessed with, great natural beauty, excellent climate, and I think the service sector holds huge potential for Nepal. And when I talk about the service sector, it's not only tourism, but health and educational facilities, sports tourism, wellness tourism. So I think the IT, so the service sector, I think, has great opportunities, and of course tourism is a very important segment in Nepal. And a lot of people are not aware of the great diversity of Nepal. It's not only mountains, but it's also valleys, it's the culture, it's your iconic buildings and structures, the World Heritage Sites of the Kathmandu Valley. So I think more people need to know. And tourism should really become one of the most significant foreign income earners for Nepal. And the other advantage of tourism is that it's a very labor-intensive sector. So it employs a large number of people. So I really, I feel tourism in its diverse forms is absolutely critical. And I know a lot is being done. In fact, just yesterday I met the director of the Nepal Tourism Board at a dinner. And she was telling me about all the campaigns, that 2020 to 30 is going to be the visit tourism decade, and all the promotions that are being done. Now you have both private and public airlines flying to many foreign countries. So I think there are huge opportunities. And I also feel that Nepal needs to be rebranded as a high-value tourism destination. Somehow there is this perception that it's a low-value backpackers paradise. And I think it's very important to rebrand Nepal as a high-value tourist destination. So you get, tourists who spend and stay in luxury resorts. So I think some work needs to be done there. Not to say that low-value tourists shouldn't come, but I think Nepal needs to be rebranded. And secondly, as far as India is concerned, in my book also I say that, we have this leave travel concession scheme for all Indian government servants. So you can travel anywhere in the country and the government pays you the air ticket to go to some place within India. Now with Nepal, we have very close relations. We don't need passports, we don't need visas. So if we can extend this leave travel concession scheme to Nepal, so many Indians would want to come here. Everybody wants to go to Pashupatinath or to Muktinath, Swargdwari. So huge opportunities for religious tourism. Janakpur, the Ramayana sector. So there's a big potential, adventure tourism. So I think this is one thing. And the second, of course, where I think India and Nepal are working together is the development of these circuits. The Ramayana circuit, connecting Ayodhya, Janakpur with other places. The Buddhist circuit connecting Lumbini with Bodh Gaya, Sarnath, Kushinagar. So these are works in progress. And I hope very much that, these circuits are developed well, the infrastructure is developed so that there is seamless movement, between these various pilgrimage sites. Huge potential. So see, for the Muslims, you have Mecca. Many of the Hindus in India, also in Nepal, go to Kashi, at least once in a lifetime. And for the Buddhists, I think, the places of Lord Buddha's birth, of his enlightenment, of his first sermon, of his nirvana are very important. And they all want to visit. I was in Vietnam, and though it's a communist country, there's, in Hindi we say Shraddha. There's a lot of Shraddha for Buddhism, and everybody wants to visit these places. Same thing in Sri Lanka, other Buddhist countries. So there are big opportunities, and if we can develop this infrastructure well, have good roads, have good immigration facilities, have good facilities for tourists on the way. Some may go by road, airport, you have, airports have come up. So I think this is a huge opportunity, not just for within our region, but especially tourists coming from Southeast Asia, from China, from so many other countries. So we should really focus on the Buddhist circuit, and not only the Buddhist circuit, also the Ramayana circuit. People know about Buddhism in Southeast Asia, but there is a huge influence of Ramayana. You go to any of the Southeast Asian countries, in Thailand there's a Ramayana, in Vietnam there's a Ramayana, in Indonesia there's a Ramayana. So the Ramayana circuit is another one that can really bring these countries together. And we talk about people-to-people diplomacy. So this is the best way of, strengthening the relationship and awareness amongst the people of each other's cultures, traditions, the nuances. So there are big opportunities, and I'm very happy that, not only the governments, because governments can do only to a certain extent, The private sector must be involved in policy formulation, conception, formulation, and implementation. That's a tough question to respond to because there's so much I can say, but in one sentence. So you're asking me for a tagline for Nepal in a sense. Yeah, well, I hope it's not a cliche, but maybe if you want to visit Shangri-La, come here.
बचत खाताहरू मध्ये सबैभन्दा बेस्ट एनआईसी एसियाको बचत खाता यो हो सर्वश्रेष्ठ